There we go. We are live. Welcome to a Fireside Chat. You are either watching or listening to the Tavern Chat podcast. With me is none other than Jeff Jones of the Scoundrels Kickstarter Zine, ZineQuest. I still get it wrong, so somebody beat me with a stick.
That's okay. Yeah, well, thanks. It's great to be here. It's great to be here.
No, this is good. For those that don't know, Jeff is the layout man and probably the only organized presence, because I'm certainly not the organized presence behind Torchlight. So I am most definitely in Jeff's debt. That has nothing to do with why I have Jeff on today.
Hey, yeah, it's Torchlight's fun, and I think the next issue, once we get that all finalized, I mean, people are going to be, I think, excited because it really came together quite nicely. It
did, and the content is pretty much not written by me. So if you didn't like the content in the premiere issue, you're a good chance you're really going to like this issue. And if you like my content, this is all better.
Yes.
So there you go. So you got,
you can't lose.
You can't lose. It's a win-win. And that was my dabble into zines. There, I got it right. Dude, it's a mental problem with me trying to say zines.
Yeah, I mean, there's always those words, whatever those words are, like the prostate, prostrate. One is a historical error, the other one's a theological error. So you don't want to. So either way, you're wrong on that one if you get it wrong. So it's just best to sometimes just avoid words altogether.
It's funny too, because there are some words that, like from the early gaming books of the AD&D, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have you had dictionaries, and a lot of times your dictionaries didn't have a definition for what you were trying to find because these words were obscure words.
Yeah.
And you couldn't look it up on the internet, and you certainly didn't get the pronunciation guide. So there's still words that I am sure I mispronounce, having learned them when I was 13.
Paladin? That's mine, Paladin.
Oh, what is it supposed to be? Paladin?
Yeah, Paladin, I think.
Paladin. No, it's a Paladin. Paladin, hell.
And Drow and Drow. I mean, I'll get it wrong every time.
Oh, God. I say Drow. So, what do you say, Drow or Drow?
I said Drow, but it's Drow.
No. We voted 2-0 right here. It is my gaming group. It was always Drow. We got to fight the Drow. We're going for the Giants. Oh my God, we're gonna fight the Drow now.
Yeah.
Drow? I guess. But how is HOW? Ho is HOE. Jeff.
I know, it's terrible. I had a friend in 8th grade. There was a debate whether it's Conan or Conan. And so he wrote to, I was like, Del Rey. And then like 2 months later, they got a letter and told him it was Conan, was the way it's pronounced. And by letter, he got the pronunciation.
I'm sure if I had sent the letter to Gary Gygax with a list of words that I could not pronounce, that it would not have gotten responded to. Nothing against Gary, but I mean, those are back then. If you want a response, you need to send a stamped, self-addressed envelope, probably with your response already pre-filled, just with boxes they could have checked off, because we're spoiled today. I mean, and the young kids, not that a lot of young kids listen to the podcast, but they do. they do actually apparently look on the YouTube side. Not that they would even know what a stamped self-addressed envelope is, or you had to include a stamped postcard for certain things.
Exactly.
Try placing an order by mail. It isn't like the internet that you're used to right now, folks.
Oh no.
We apologize. Oh wait, so Chad's always like, I guess for Drow. Didn't Frank make that pronunciation guide in Dragon Magazine? He might have. The only pronunciation guide I remember in Dragon Magazine is Thieves' Cant or Chant. And I actually cut that out and tried to make a Thieves' Cant booklet that could have been used at the gaming table. And all my friends thought I was weird and stupid.
when nerds call you out for being a nerd, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
Like you hypocrites. It's like,
Oh, wait. Let me refer to my dictionary here. Thieves Camp from issue like 66 of Dragon Magazine. What are the words you're looking for? So, no, that's... There you go. It's like, oh, jeez. So, again, we've established your bona fides because you've obviously already worked on a zine. By the way, because of the current ZineQuest, and not only have I been asked if I was going to participate in it, and I was like, there's no way I'm doing a Kickstarter because with my luck, I'll be late, and then the person that always calls out late people will be the one that will have to call out himself, and that just doesn't work. But we've also been asked if we're going to put out Torchlight in print, which is fun because I've been asked questions about other zines that are currently on ZineQuest that are only in print, and I get people sending me messages. Do you know who's publishing this? Because I'm in the UK and I'd like to get it in like PDF. So to answer your print question, probably after we get a few out. Maybe.
Yeah, here's, I think because I've got a few things I'm going to do because I had some thoughts. I think if you get enough people in the UK, there's an option of having Maxim or Mixum. Sorry, I forget. I said mixed up. Anyway, they have a UK publishing arm, so you can send the files, have things printed there, but you got to have enough files to make sure it's cost effective. So it's going to cost you like a minimum of say $25.
Right.
One, but then maybe 3 of them is $78. So that's one way. The other thing I'm going to do is once the Kickstarter is over, I get everything there. I didn't have any copies for international sale, but what I'm going to do, if some of the people from international who bought the PDFs are wanting physical copies, I'm going to look at mailing them copies to see how that works.
All right. So now, in a way, we've kind of jumped the shark, but now we went from point A, and that's why, folks, if you ever watch these firesides or you listen to them, they are not scripted. We literally spent the 10 minutes before logging in, catching up like old friends, and not really talking about what we're going to talk about. So, Scoundrels is the zine. How did that come about? I mean, what got... see, now, time out, folks. This is something I want to point out. This is not the first time this has happened, but we actually have a printed proof copy in hand. So you know that if you are backing this, if you're not backing an idea, you're not backing something that's already been half-assed put together, and I'm hoping I can finish it, you actually have a proof copy in hand. Those of you at home can't see this. I apologize for that. I can't make images happen through sound, although apparently, according to the Discovery Channel, some people can see sounds. But that is literally 90% of the battle is having that proof copy, because that literally means that I don't know, maybe except if we have the end of days, and if we have the end of days, fulfilling Kickstarters are not going to be your concern. You're going to get this, and you're going to get this pretty much on time because it exists.
Yeah, and I set the date for delivery in October, but actually I plan to have it out, I think, by the beginning of May. Or maybe
a wise man that decided to pad a little bit of padding just in case, I don't know, COVID-23 strikes or whatever the hell could, put this world into a backwards place again.
Yeah, you just don't know. You don't know. In fact, I was interviewing Matt Forbeck, who a company went and took his intellectual property, Shotguns and Sorcery, and said, hey, let's make an RPG out of it. They did. They put it through Kickstarter. And then right after the Kickstarter happened, the guy who was doing the whole thing, horrible divorce, court battles for children, ugly situation. And it's like nobody foresaw that. And of course, people aren't getting their product and they're all upset. But the guy just, it's a one-man operation, and you just don't know what can happen.
No, you don't. And listen, there has been another project that literally right before it was going to be started to go out the door, the creator died. Oh my God! And yes, there are acts of God or real life that you can't account for, which is why you account for them by padding the time. You don't say, "Oh, we're going to fund in November of 2001." And the books will ship in 2001, Far West. I'm not referring to Gareth Sharka at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. But if I was, that would have been the situation. So, hey, I'll have my 10-year anniversary with my lovely wife Rach, and I probably still won't have a book they paid for when we got married.
They'll taint you for the rest of your day. They'll taint an anniversary.
Well,
a toast and a curse. Oh, where's my mug?
Yes. It's like, I got a book that I was excited about when I married you. I'm still excited about you, hon. But yeah.
I'm still salty, though.
Yeah, well, just a little bit. I think Rach takes that the whole Gareth Sharka thing more personal than I do because of the timing of it. I just think that's part of the issue. But now, how did you come up with Scoundrels? I mean, we've talked about this leading up to ZineQuest. Again, just being fully honest, Jeff and I do talk. So this isn't like two strangers sitting down going, what are we going to talk about? No, Jeff and I do talk. So there's a history here, but we talked about Scoundrels. But what brought it about?
So Blades in the Dark. For those that don't know, it is I highly recommend, even if you'll never run the game. It is a great game, and it's kind of set into we'll say kind of it's like horror combined with Victorian, combined with post-apocalyptic, combined with all sorts of other things. But the gist of the whole thing is that you're criminals, you're a gang, you're a crew. And you're in a city with other gangs and other crews, and you go on missions, and those missions will change your relationship to other crews and also your position as your own faction. And there's a number of things that make this really good, but the main thing is because like you played Shadowrun, right?
Yes, right, way back, Shadowrun First Edition.
Yeah, so you can buy modules, but there's nothing that really shows you how to run a crime game.
No. Listen, we had, oh God, what was it? Thieves. They were back in the early and mid '80s, I guess. There was a kind of a ripoff of D&D, and it was all Thieves. And I never bought any of the 17 or so supplements that came out for it because nobody was ever playing it.
Yeah,
but there was something back then. But yeah, listen. If you're playing AD&D or D&D, your thieving abilities are just what you're using in an adventure. You're not going out there picking pockets. Probably the most dangerous thing you could do.
No, and I think the thing is, there really wasn't any guide to doing this. And where Blades in the Dark is set up, it's set like you play a session, you do a quick planning. You don't do long planning. There's mechanics to abbreviate the preparation time. Then you do the job, and then afterwards, there's a procedure for what happens after the job is done. And so it was done really well, and I thought, this is great. But what I'd really like to see is Blades in the Dark, but instead, you're in playing Star Wars in Mos Eisley or in Sky or Cloud City on Bespin.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was like, that's what the lightning was like. I want to do this, but I want to play criminals in a sci-fi universe.
Right.
And so the whole idea originally was like a Cloud City, different layers, each one being a different strata of society. But over time, it's like, I'm going to have to scrap that idea, but that each strata is actually representative of just a region. So it doesn't have to be a level. It could be, however cities divided up. It could be inside of an asteroid, or it could just even be for a modern setting. There's nothing inherent. There are some elements in here that are sci-fi, but I would say probably 90% of it you could play as a modern setting without any problems.
Really? So you basically you're covering at least 2 genres at least. And now, and with sci-fi, now you're thinking, Star Wars. Of course, my mind immediately goes back to something like Babylon 5, because Babylon 5 was full of thieves in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, it's like, wow, having that with the Babylon 5 backdrop would be pretty cool too. But it's all out there, right, for you to for folks to rip and steal from, different fictional sources. I mean, that's just awesome.
Yeah, this is really a template. This is not there are some factions and there's some things I wrote that are kind of evocative of a specific setting, but really it will fit into any sci-fi setting. There's no reason that it won't. You can do this with Star Trek, Star Wars. It really doesn't matter. If you want to play this with Shadowrun, you want to play this with whatever it may be. You could even, if you want to just play even a modern game, there's no reason why you can't use this.
So it's basically source, dare I say it, system neutral source material.
It is. In fact, so like I have the regions, but I mean the regions are like power plants, a port. So a port could be any city can have a port. It doesn't have to be a spaceport. It could be a water port. And so there are NPCs. So it starts out where there's like locations. So they're kind of thinking of those as layers in there, the strata. And each one has different regions I kind of outlined out, but those are just generic areas. So it could be like governmental offices or whatever. And then each for one of those, I have individual NPCs. And so, like for instance, so for an area you can't read it because it's backwards, but like various like for factories and such. Then I got different types of factories, different situations, and then a little write-up that's very evocative of what's going on. But then I also have 3 NPCs for each of those. And each one of those PCs has a little write-up, and they also have some description to them. There's no stats to it, but it's enough to give you a flavor of like, I can run this PC or this NPC.
Right. It's great for DMs that like to improv and let their players sandbox their campaign to a large extent. Because one of the hardest things to do, at least in my experience, and admittedly, I was probably a much less skilled GM at the time, is to run urban adventures, because they aren't like your general hex crawler sandbox, because those you kind of have an idea where your party's going to go, but when you put them in a city, they can go anywhere. Players like to shop. My wife would love urban adventures. Oh, yeah. My wife and Joe the lawyer, you'd probably lose them for 2 or 3 game sessions because they'd be exploring. And the whole thing is when your characters and your party start exploring, you want to almost like bring the adventure to them wherever they're at. And material like this sounds like you can do that, which we didn't really have that back much in the 80s. Cities didn't. City Supplements Waterdeep box set wasn't really great at explaining to you how to run an urban setting.
No, and I think a lot of those they present you with a lot of NPCs, and they might present you with locations, but I think the way they're written is there's the amount of wording used makes it kind of unwieldy at the table.
Yes,
you don't need to be reading it. You don't need to read 2 or 3 paragraphs on NPC. You just need a very short paragraph. You just need to read it real quickly and say, oh, "Okay, I got ideas for this guy."
Right. You don't need to know, that they're having marital strife and their oldest child ran away, unless it's going to be a story hook, in which case maybe you can use that. But a lot of times they go into stuff that you go, my character's going to, the PCs in my party are going to want to know 1 or 2 things. What is there for them to buy, or what is there for them to steal? And in this game, it's probably what is there for them to steal, and maybe what's there for them to buy.
Well, and here it's also, I have like for the second one, I have like what series called Friends and Rivals. So the idea is you can roll for each character or choose for a person that is a personal contact and a person that is a rival. That doesn't mean that you have to kill them, but they complicate your lives. So they are just there to add more interest, to tie characters into the city.
Fair enough.
So there's NPCs. There's also, if you just say, you know what, I need somebody from a tavern, or I need somebody that's a hacker. There's also just by topic, there's additional NPCs, all with a paragraph write-up. And these are all can be generated with a D66. So everything is either a D3 or a D66. Locations, I also provide locations with write-ups and descriptions. So, and then I also have complications. So at the end, what you can do is you have a whole chapter on adventure creation. And I step by step how you can take all these tables and give an example of coming up with a job or an adventure based on those tables.
Now, how many pages did this come in at?
That's going to be 3 zines, and I think I don't know. I think it's going to be about 28,000 words.
Oh, all right. Don't ask me how that converts to digest size, zine size.
I think it's going to be about, we'll say 100, probably under 100 pages is what's
all right. So now, quasi off topic, but kind of on topic. Now, what kind of binding do these books have? And is the recent drive-through issue going to affect you?
So these are not perfect bound. These are saddle stitch. So these are going to be, for this, I'm going to go through mix them. And what I'm going to have these saddle stitched.
Right.
And but what I may do in the future with these, I may put them together later on and then get them perfect bound and do them through drive-through.
Okay, on print on demand. No, because I've been talking to numerous creators, some on the live stream, but many others via PMs and email, often to let them vent about the removal of saddle stitch as an option at drive-through. And it will have an effect on our hobby. I mean, it might not have a huge effect in print on demand overall. I mean, I guess gaming RPGs are just a small segment of that business, but for our segment, that's a pretty standard format.
Yeah, and I think the thing is it's kind of the thing also realizes that anything that you buy that was originally set up to be saddle stitched, you could print out and saddle stitch it yourself.
Yes.
So it actually, like for this one, those of you listening at home can't see, it's not the edges aren't perfect because the pages squirt out as you put more and more pages inside pages, and you can trim them. I mean, it was not going to be perfect, but you can always with these, even a PDF form, print them out and make use of them at the table, as a saddle stitch.
Right.
So it's not fun. Takes time. Takes a lot of time.
Yeah, and you need the long arm stapler. I know I have one. Because I put out, I think, a baker's dozen of Swords and Wizardry Continua Light as saddle stitch digest size before I actually had print on demand on Amazon. These were free copies I gave out at GaryCon. So if you have one of those copies, they are extremely rare, unless of course you printed your own, in which case.
Well, the other thing you can do is you can take your a regular staple, pop it and open it completely up, put your paper down on with a lot of cardboard underneath it, and you can staple it. It won't bend the staples, but it'll push it through the paper, and then you can flip it over, and then you can bend the staples. So you can do that too. If you're really just desperately needing these things stapled together, that is a very serviceable way of doing
it might be viable if you're doing one copy for yourself.
If
you get to do I don't know, 240, 250 copies for people, I think that's when you got to find yourself Mix'em or something like that to do it. And I've only heard good things about Mix'em for the hobby publisher, so that's awesome.
So in the zine RPG zine group, there was somebody kind of mentioned about you should try and use local printers when you can, blah blah blah. So I called a local printer, and it was going to be like 5 times the cost. 5 times the cost. it was just like insane.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's like, so anyhow, I mean, I think there are probably still cheaper ways of doing it, but I mix them. I'm not sure how they're doing it so cheaply, but it's a very economical way of doing it.
And I believe Phil Reed puts a lot of his in-print releases through Mixum, and I think that's how a lot of the hobby community started finding out about it. Is Phil stuff. It's a really high quality print. No shade thrown to drive-through, but drive-through was not providing that quality through Lightning Source. So
you can also order a packet. I don't know if I got them here. You can order a packet from Mixum, and they will provide you booklets, so you can know what they. Shoot, I don't think I have any. Oh, here they are. So they have a. Those of you at home, listening at home won't be able to see, but they've got a glossing example.
Oh, okay. So you can actually get a sample of the print quality, the paper quality.
Yeah,
those are really nice.
Oh yeah, and so on the back they will tell you what paperweights these were at, and what coating they had.
Okay. And
so you get a good idea of what you're getting. So I highly recommend, if you're even thinking about doing it, just order the free. It's free. They'll ship to you for free, and they'll give you the samples of those booklets.
Damn, I'm tempted to, and I have no intention of actually using them. But it's kind of like, what was that saying that if it's free, it's for me?
Oh, I like that. I never heard that before.
Yeah. Has nothing to do with my prior occupation. And if it did, it was always in relationship to food.
Right.
Yeah, because basically, when you were a police officer, you knew two things. You knew where to find inexpensive but edible food, and you learned how to find the best food, regardless of price. Because sometimes you went to work with very little money in your pocket and realized that you had to make it stretch. And sometimes you had money in your pocket from overtime and you wanted to reward yourself, and you're like, I'm going to get the best Italian food in the city, and we're near Little Italy in the Bronx, so we're going to eat well tonight. And other times it was like, all right, I got to find that abandoned school bus that serves empanadas, because that's as far as my money's going to go.
Yeah,
but Mixum is like getting the best of both worlds. Looking at those samples, it's like you're getting high-end print quality, but at affordable prices. So
yeah, it's crazy.
But they don't ship for you though, right? You got to do your own shipping.
They actually so there's kind of two situations, I believe, if I recall. I've in RPG Ramblings, I did an interview with Sarah. I need to go back and listen to it. But I think if you just had a handful of things to ship, they would ship it for you. If it's like 4 or 5, they would do it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it's a larger company. If it's a larger company, not a larger company, if it's a larger order, then there's another company they work with.
Oh, I think like logistically, you can actually, you see, because that's the main advantage of working through Drive-Thru RPG with these Kickstarters, is that you can do stuff that's on print on demand, and you give an at-cost coupon to somebody, and you've taken away the need to add the extra step of shipping into the equation. But in a way, you are deferring costs of the Kickstarter to your backer, because, well, yeah, for $10, you get an at-cost coupon in a PDF. Well, how much is the at-cost? Well, the at-cost is going to be another $12 plus shipping. It's a hidden cost. It's good in one way, and I guess it sucks in another.
Yeah, it does. And I think what also skews the Kickstarter is, let's say you have a product that you're selling for $1, and let's say it costs you $10 to ship it, and you put that in your information. I'm charging $10 for shipping and $1 for the product. But when somebody says, "Yeah, I'll take that," it counts as $11 towards your goal.
Your goal.
So what can happen is that can jack up if you got PDFs and also doing the zines, the physical zines. That ratio can throw off your numbers.
See, I didn't realize that shipping was counted in that. I always thought once you allowed you to add shipping as a drop down, I thought it was counted separately.
No,
But
no.
and then
they charge you. They get their 10% of that. So not only charging you for there, it's like, oh, yeah, see what you're doing there. So you got to be careful with your tiers because your reward tiers, because or you might get tiers. Is that if you set it up and somebody orders things in ways you don't expect, you may have structured it in such a way that it could completely throw off your stretch goals.
Okay, and you could fund without actually you could fund without actually funding what you need to be successful.
Yeah, and yes, exactly. And also, you just may not know. Like, see, I was going to put some stretch goals, but if everybody ordered PDFs and I funded, or if everybody ordered at the highest tier and I funded, those are completely different outlooks. So I couldn't say, you know what, if I make this amount of money, I'm going to spend this much money on that, because I don't know how much money I'll have left over, because it depends on which direction people went.
Yeah, as Sadler points out, you could lose money in the tier structure, and that's I have seen it. You see it happening less often now, but you see projects oh God, now I'm having a City State, the Invincible Overlord, where the tier structure, when they started adding in things like miniatures, threw off the funding to the point that, you could produce the miniatures, but you can't produce anything else for the other backers, because it literally ate up all the money, because you weren't taking into account necessarily the shipping cost of sending out miniatures, which you can't ship via media mail, so your shipping cost just balloons. Or you could be like the Might and Magic Kickstarter, where you take so long to actually get the product out that shipping costs balloon, and you no longer have the funds to ship the boxes upon boxes of goods that are sitting in your living room, probably still to this day, unless his wife had him burn it, compost it, who knows. But the boxes existed. The stuff existed. It just, there was no money to ship it. So
that's the other thing about shipping is, if you can get it in an envelope at a certain amount, you get a really good rate. But if you go media rate, there is a very specific list of things that can only be.
Right.
So
no dice.
Well, not only that, because you I was listening to, I can't remember which podcast, because you do so many of them now, I'm having a hard time keeping up. But you talked about, well, wouldn't it be cool to have them like the detachable covers with the maps?
Right.
That would no longer be media mail.
Really?
Yes, because you're shipping the booklet part is, but once you have that detachable cover, that's no longer a book. If you go look to the United States Post Office and you see what they allow, you realize you can really jack up your rates unintentionally, thinking, you know what, I got detachable covers, so what? Well, it's not a book; it's a book and a something else.
Right. It's a book and a folder. You no longer actually.
Yeah, I put stickers in there. That may change it. I'm just saying, maybe there's some stuff they'll let pass. I don't know, but by the letter of the law. You don't want to gamble.
You don't want to gamble with that,
yes,
because it literally becomes gambling. Yes, Shadzar in the chat was like, "Didn't Steve Jackson Games lose money on the Ogre Kickstarter?" I know they didn't make money on the Ogre Kickstarter. I think they broke even or lost slightly, and it's not because Joe Goodman didn't plan everything out. He is not Joe Goodman. Steve Jackson didn't plan everything out. He's spot on with that stuff. But the issue was stretch goals. Remember, the stretch goals for the Ogre game, you couldn't put the stretch goal in the box. They had to wrap it to the box for the extra Ogres. I know, because I have it. I have never played it, and I probably never will. So it's a damn shame. Stretch goals are nice, but they have to be reasonable. Second Ice King's Kickstarter, we only did extra OSR adventures, which we were already plotting out anyway, and that is another thing. Stretch goals can become an addictive disease and talking about OSR Kickstarter's Memorial Tomb. I think that the reason why we hadn't seen it or heard much going on with it until Troll Lords came in is because they gave themselves all these stretch goals, which excited the backers for sure, but also put a lot of pressure on the creators to get it out. And in their case, best thing that Ernie and Benoit could do is that they took the money from a well-funded Kickstarter and put it into a business account. They didn't mix it with their own funds, like others, perhaps Gareth Sharka. That's what I heard. Sorry, Gareth. When you threaten to punch me in the throat, you come up a lot. But when you mix funds, and a lot of these smaller Kickstarters, that's going to happen. But I know it's not you, Jeff, because you understand business, but some people, Kickstarter is the first time they're actually entering into a business. It's like, oh, I made $10,000. No, you didn't. You're lucky if you made $9,000. I made $9,000. No, you didn't. The tax man cometh and taketh away. I made $5,600. No, you didn't, because now you still have to publish it, print it, mail it, pay your artists, pay your layout, pay maybe authors. You didn't make that money. It's an illusion. You made some. If you did well, you did better than breaking even. But it's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
No, I'm thinking about breaking down once the Kickstarter's over, breaking it all down and showing everybody. But you see people like say they fund for, let's say, like $5,000. They may only be actually, once all said and done, only be seeing $1,000. And then sometimes that's a very good Kickstarter. But if you look at their word rate, they may not really be doing that great for the amount of time they put in.
Right.
For mine, I started to figure out, if I were to sell my services for the Scoundrels, what I'm doing right now is I'm saying, what would I think would be what I would charge? And I'm figuring that amount. And then whatever money I'm making over that, I'm figuring what would I have had to pay a person to write it if I were to pay a writer. And you realize very quickly, once you add 2 people or 3 people, that money goes quick. I mean, there is not a lot of money.
This is, you generally do stuff like this out of the love of the hobby and the excitement and joy out of doing something like this. If you're doing it to, if you're doing it for RPG fame, well, that's A, it's fleeting, and B, it won't have anybody buy you a beer at the local pub, but it does kind of feel good. But it's better. That's still a better reason than to do it for the money, because this is not a field that very many people make a living salary on, let alone get rich.
Yeah, what I was thinking about is maybe, because I kind of seen something like this, is maybe setting goals and working with people ahead of time and saying, with the goals, when you hit those milestones, really what you're doing is you're paying the writer more money.
Right. Like
now he's getting 4 cents a word. The next sketch goal is, that he gets 5 cents a word, and it's, I think people can then see that money's actually going towards paying somebody a somewhat reasonable amount of money for their work. It's hard, because you can look at those amounts and think, oh, that's a tremendous amount of money. But once you pay the artists, once you look at your writing, once you look at your layout, I mean, there's a lot of time invested.
Yeah. People don't realize it. And you got to look at ZineQuest and look at the 250 zines that are out there now, and we still have 3 weeks where people can add zines to ZineQuest.
Oh yeah,
it is huge, and it is a learning experience for people. Again, I can't stress this enough. Jeff has the proof copy in his hands. I'm gonna say that probably 3 out of 4 zines don't even have a home printed copy on full printer paper as a scratch copy. They're still working on digital files. If you're lucky, some of the stuff has not been written yet. But when somebody can show you, not only have I written it, I've laid it out. I've got my art. I'm doing my scratch editing to catch my mistakes. Before I pass it on to an editor who will catch my mistake that I didn't catch.
Yes. Yeah, my plan is right now. It is funded, so I'm absolutely thankful for that. I'm about ready to the point where then I'll have enough money to pay a copy editor. So I'm going to have a copy editor go through the whole thing, and then I also have a person I'll have look over my layout once it's finally done. So this should be, once it's done, should be about the most professional thing I could possibly do. Which is awesome.
I mean, this is, and I've mentioned this on other firesides when it comes to the ZineQuest, but Tim Shorts did everybody a huge favor by putting together the RPG zine community on Facebook. I have never, as somebody who's been involved in social media in the gaming area, and there were a lot of very helpful groups back when G Plus was around, but I have never seen such a source of information and help and just freely, bouncing of ideas back and forth, and it's amazing to see the amount of participation in that community when it comes to the creation of zines, and I just think it's inspirational. If you haven't started a zine yet, you're gonna want to if you pop into that community.
Yeah, in fact, he asked me to help with adminning that group, and so he proves, the admin has to prove each person that comes in. So now I'm seeing the flood of people. So there's it says 1,500 people. I bet there's going to be over 2,000 people before the end of the month. I bet there's going to be 3,000 people before the end of the year.
Yeah. No, and I actually love the fact that Tim wasn't on Facebook for years because I think Facebook did not believe that Tim Shorts was a real person.
But Gothridge Manor is.
Or Gothridge Manor, yeah. Gothridge Manor is, but Tim Shorts. Go figure that one out. It's like, well, prove that you're who you are. How about from Gothridge Manor? Oh, sure. I have a cousin named Gothridge.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, oh, jeez.
But what's interesting is those people that are putting stuff out, and that are also going to that group are from all over the world.
Yes.
This is not just a bunch of guys in the U.S. I mean, it's South America, it's Europe, it's Asia, it's all over the board where people are producing some amazing stuff.
It's Australia.
Yes, Australia.
So you're going to have zines out there in languages other than English. You're going to have zines out there that are just going to be PDF. You can have ones that are just in print. Depending, and here's the thing: if you're shipping from the U.S. and you're just doing print, you're probably just shipping to the U.S. because U.S. postal rates to go overseas are ridiculous unless you keep it down.
Yeah, so the other problem too, I was trying to. So Alistair, I don't think I'm putting the enunciation in the right spot, but Alistair from the UK, he reached out to me. He was talking about where you'd have something, a mixing would print, send it to him, then he would distribute it, which is a possibility. Right. But all the crazy stuff going on with Brexit, and sometimes people will get charged one amount, another time another person in the same region will get charged like 3 times the amount with duties. There's no consistency at this point because it's utter chaos of mail. I think there might be certain types of mail that might be fine, but in general, mail going from the UK to the rest of going to the EU is a mess.
And I'm sure COVID had nothing to do with throwing any further monkey wrenches into that at all.
Well, it's further, but the main thing is they're no longer they're no longer part of the European Union, so everything has to be renegotiated. Everything has to be renegotiated. So what he was saying is, there's a tremendous amount of integration of social services, financial services, everything. It would almost be like, like part of the eastern part of the United States, seceding from the United States. Okay, everything is up for grabs at that moment, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because we have free interstate commerce and all that kind of stuff, but that would all change.
Wow. It's I guess when you think about it, the United States is 50 states, which initially would have been considered 50 nations, I guess, in a lot of different ways. Yeah. Wow. Go figure. Oh, well, as always, time with us flies. Again, folks, Jeff and I have a nice rapport because we've been, since the summertime. And it has nothing to do with the fact that we share the exact same birthday and year of birth. Yeah. That's just coincidental. Scoundrels is the zine. See, now it took me a whole episode. I'm finally saying zine, not Zine. Won't last, but maybe we fixed me for a little bit. Maybe for the rest of the week. I doubt it. How much is Scoundrels over on Kickstarter?
So for $8, you get all 3 PDFs. For $16, what I did is, this was completely wrong on my part because you never know till you do a thing. I thought, so I followed, just to back up, Phil Reed, the patron saint of RPG zines. I thought, you know what? I don't know if it's going to work. I'm just going to follow Phil Reed's path, except for I charged more for the PDFs. But I thought he basically charges $8 per PDF, or not per PDF, but per zine printed. Right. So I went that same route. I said 3 zines. It's going to be $24. But I thought, man, very few people are going to spend, $24 for 3 zines. So I thought, well, but I can't sell them individually, but 1 and 2 go together. The third one is got extra rules, but 1 and 2 is really what you're working with as far as the NPCs and the tables and that. So I debated a $16 tier, for people who just want 2 physical copies and all 3. And not a single person has bought the $16 level. And if you look at the $8 level and the $24 level, it's split 50-50, almost exactly.
Really?
Yes.
So you got completists out there.
Well, I think a lot of people who bought the $8 level only did that because they're international.
Yeah. Well, you know what? There's a lot of that too. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was mentioning this, I think, yesterday, that receiving zines in the mail is kind of like Christmas. It's a mini Christmas, but you have to open something up and it's like you're getting something that is collectible. I'm not saying it's going to be valuable. There's a difference. But collectible means it's going to be a certain number of these out there. They are not print on demand in this case. So you get one, you have something that's pretty unique, and it's special.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, one of the sayings I used to love was the freedom of the press only applies to those that have a press. But we're living in an age where now we all have access to a press.
Yes.
Right? You don't have to be like TSR in the old days where you're just like, I guess I'm going to have to do a 10,000 book run. No, you can, out of the passion of your heart, you can get some Affinity software for under $100, and you can just type away and make your product your vision. You can put all your heart and soul into it that no other company would dare put resources towards, because they're like, it's not worth it to devote that much time for solo payoff. And you could put the stuff out and people can then have access to things that they never could before.
Yeah, it's amazing. And again, I've heard the argument that, large companies, meaning Steve Jackson Games, I guess, Paizo, Frog God, others, Troll Lords, shouldn't be using Kickstarter. Why? Because Kickstarter is the best way to gauge the market for your product these days. Well, and it really.
There's another aspect to this, and this is cash flow. And I don't think those people realize is that it takes cash outlay first before you to make all this, and then you have to sell a certain amount of product to you actually pay that off. So there could be a delay of months of laying out cash before you get your money back, where with Kickstarter, you have your cash. You can just say, artist, here's your money. Writer, here's your money. And you don't have to put yourself at a cash flow risk that's what can destroy your company. You could be extremely successful, but your cash flow gets wrong, and all of a sudden you're under.
Exactly. And again, you don't have the risk of, we don't know how many copies we need. All right, well, let's do a print run of 10,000. Your 10,000 print run sells out in 2 weeks. Wow. Now I got to do a new print run at an additional cost. I'm not going to, if I had done this all up front, I would have gotten a lower cost per item. Yeah. But now, from Kickstarter, all right, I know I've sold 10,000 books via Kickstarter. I figure we know from our market that we can sell, and these are just bullshit numbers, folks. Don't quote. Tenkar is not talking as an expert on this subject matter. But all right, we know we can sell 10,000. We can order 4,000 copies beyond that, and that'll be sold out in a year and a half, 2 years. So you're not stuck with stuff sitting in a warehouse, literally rotting away, pages turning, risking getting damaged from water damage or whatever, and paying for the space to store it.
Yeah,
you know what your market is,
right? That's just
it's invaluable.
It's cash tied up in something that's doing you no good,
right? So, Kickstarter for companies pretty much of all sizes, except if you're Hasbro themselves, because Hasbro apparently is big enough that they can do their own internal Kickstarter for things like HeroQuest, and then you're like, oh, okay. So you keep that money that would normally be going to Kickstarter. Wise. Do you pass the savings on to us? No, of course not. But yeah, Jeff, thank you, man. I really this was good. This was a good show.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Eric. I had a great time.
I always have a great time with you. And for those that may be catching this later, this is Super Bowl Sunday, and dare I say, I may actually watch a football game this year. If I don't, I have the beer and I have the chicken, so at least I'll be drinking beer and eating chicken as I watch like random YouTube videos of the History Channel.
Yes.
Or I might actually watch some football. We'll see. But folks, as always, I know you're probably sick and tired of me saying this. I've been doing this for about a year now. We are in the midst of the world of COVID. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You tell me your character would not throw a fireball into a 10 by 10 room because they know better. They have common sense. Use your common sense. The best way to keep yourself, your loved ones, your family, your community healthy and safe. All right? I'm not giving you answers. You figure it out yourself. Be safe, be well, God bless. Roll those dice. I'll be back tomorrow with 2 more live streams. And again on Tuesday with 2 more live streams because, come on, live is where it's at. All right, folks. We're out of here. Laters.